Assalamu alaikum. Have you ever felt this tension between your natural desires and the limits imposed by your faith? In a world where relationships are often defined by superficial encounters and rushed physical attachments, there is a different path, one that respects Islamic principles while still allowing for sincere connection. But how can we navigate these murky waters and establish a physical connection without crossing the boundaries of sin? If you've ever asked yourself this question, stick with me, because today we're going to explore how to live a balanced, respectful, and pure relationship while staying true to your values. You will discover that, far from being a restriction, Islam offers us paths to deep and true connection. Organ 1. Respectful communication. Contact that elevates. We live in a time where superficiality often dominates relationships. Every gesture, every look seems to be governed by social norms, and in this tumult, it is easy to lose sight of what is truly important. But in the light of Islam, the way we communicate, even on a physical level, should always be a reflection of our respect for Allah and each other. Think about communication. In a healthy and respectful relationship, communication is not limited to words. It goes well beyond that. It encompasses our gestures, our silences, our tone, and our way of looking at others. In a relationship where the intention is pure, every word spoken, every look exchanged, every smile offered should have the power to uplift the soul of the other. This is the essence of respectful communication, harmony between words and actions. When we engage in a relationship, it is easy to succumb to the temptation to seek immediate connection, physical contact. But in Islam, we are encouraged to take our time and engage through deep, sincere respect. Islam does not forbid us from connecting with a person, but teaches us how to do it in a way that benefits our souls and our faith. Every contact, every gesture must have a meaning that goes beyond the moment, a meaning that nourishes our faith and prepares the way for a deeper and purer commitment. Imagine a conversation where words are chosen with care, where every gesture is marked with consideration. A smile is not just a movement of the mouth, it is a gesture of kindness. Eyes meeting in respect and integrity are more than just a visual encounter. They are windows that reveal the depth of intentions. In this context, even physical distance can be a form of respect, and the expectation of more serious engagement becomes a form of purification for the soul. But how do you create such a connection? How do we establish that connection that goes beyond the surface and preserves our faith while allowing for real human connection? The secret lies in intention. Intention is what differentiates a mundane encounter from a sacred encounter. When we speak to others, is it to seduce? Or is it to know the other in their truth? To better understand their heart and their aspirations? It goes beyond simple social interaction. It becomes an act of dedication, a means of building a relationship that can lead to a pure future, that of marriage, a commitment before Allah. Remember that every word exchanged with sincerity, every gesture marked with respect, strengthens the spiritual bond and creates an authentic connection. When you look at someone, look at them with eyes full of respect, not just eyes of desire. Speak with gentleness and consideration, not with the intention of seducing. It's this attention that makes all the difference. A relationship based on deep respect, on sincere communication, becomes a relationship that elevates. Not only does it strengthen the human connection, but it also brings you closer to your Creator. The beauty of respectful communication is that it creates a connection that goes beyond immediate needs and wants. It is timeless and spiritual. It does not depend on societal norms, but on purity of heart and intention. You cannot build a strong relationship without a solid foundation of respect and understanding. This respect must be present from the beginning, in the little things, in the gestures invisible to the eyes of those who do not understand. 2. The importance of the halal framework, making emotions permissible. In a world where romantic relationships are often treated like a game where the rules are fuzzy, it is essential to return to the clear and simple principles given to us by our faith. In Islam, the love and connection between two people is governed by guidelines that preserve the purity of our emotions while allowing them to manifest in a healthy and respectful way. But how can we connect emotionally without compromising our values? The answer lies in building a halal framework, an environment and circumstances where emotions can flourish without the temptations that lead to the undesirable. This framework is not a restriction. On the contrary, it protects our hearts and souls from the wounds that can arise when we allow ourselves to be guided by our desires without thinking about their spiritual consequences. Islam does not reject love or emotional connection, but it teaches us to nurture them within a sacred framework. The halal framework is not only a question of what we do, but also of what we feel and how we choose to channel these feelings. When we allow our emotions to develop within this framework, they take on a blessed and pure form, which does not leave us with emptiness, but on the contrary, brings us closer to our Creator. For example, it is allowed to know someone, to discuss, to share ideas, values, to forge a connection of mind and heart, but always with clear limits. It is essential to meet in public environments, to avoid private or intimate situations that can divert the course of the relationship towards unhealthy desires. A halal framework also involves surrounding yourself with witnesses, friends or relatives who ensure that the relationship progresses with total respect for the dignity and modesty of each person. This may seem difficult to grasp at first, especially in a society where anything seems allowed, but in reality, this environment is where the relationship can develop in the most authentic and fulfilling way. When we place ourselves in this framework, we create a protective barrier not only against physical temptations, but also against emotional distraction. Because there is a mutual respect for spiritual values, the relationship has the opportunity to grow safely, without rushing. Islam also teaches us that there is no shame in waiting, in taking the time to get to know others without rushing. Instead of focusing on instant gratification or a quick connection, it's far more valuable to cultivate a relationship where patience and reflection are the cornerstones. And when it is finally time to move the relationship forward toward concrete commitment, the halal framework sets the stage for a truly blessed marriage, built on mutual understanding and proven sincerity. In this framework, emotions are experienced in their purity. They are not destroyed by the confusion or disappointment that can arise from a rushed or illegitimate relationship. This allows you to truly experience love without the regrets or guilt that sometimes follow relationships based on worldly expectations. When we choose to follow this path, our emotions are not a burden, but a blessing, strengthening our faith and preparing us for a life shared in respect, peace of mind, and closeness to Allah. Adopting this halal framework is an act of faith. This demonstrates complete trust in divine wisdom and an understanding that what is best for us is what brings us closer to our Creator, not what distances us. It is possible to connect deeply with a person without crossing the boundaries of divine rules. In this process, we gain not only a strong relationship, but also the inner peace and spiritual satisfaction that comes from it. 3. Allowed gestures, creating an authentic connection. When we think about love and physical connection, it's easy to believe that these elements are necessarily linked to tangible gestures, direct actions that convey a feeling. However, in Islam, the expression of affection is not limited to the physical act. It lies in the purity of intention and the sincerity of gestures that come from within, long before they manifest themselves externally. Every gesture, even the smallest, can become a powerful way to create an authentic connection, if the intention behind it is clear and respectful. In a relationship, it is natural to feel deep emotions for a person, but Islam teaches us that true connection does not only lie in the physical realization of these emotions. The heart is the starting point of every authentic relationship. Thus, even without direct physical contact, it is possible to transmit affection and respect through simple but meaningful gestures. A gentle word, a caring gesture, a sincere look are equally powerful forms of expression. Think about a genuine smile. In Islam, a smile is an act of charity. It is not a simple superficial act, but a way of bringing light into the hearts of others. The small gesture can break down barriers, relax the atmosphere, and strengthen the bond between two people. In a halal setting, a sincere smile can convey the warmth of affection without crossing the boundaries imposed by faith. A look, when given with respect and consideration, can communicate more than a simple word. This type of look, which does not seek to seduce, but to recognize the humanity and dignity of others, becomes an act of spiritual elevation. Another powerful gesture is active listening. In a world saturated with noise and distractions, truly listening to someone, giving them your full attention, is a rare and precious act. When you listen attentively to someone's thoughts and concerns, you show them deep respect. This gesture is much more than a simple verbal response. It is an act of authentic connection that fosters a relationship nourished by mutual understanding. In a respectful setting, a simple conversation can be more meaningful than many physical gestures. Gestures of mutual support, such as offering help in difficult times or being there during times of joy, also strengthen bonds. Islam teaches us the importance of supporting each other, and this support can take many forms. Sometimes it's not a physical gesture like holding a hand, but rather a spiritual gesture, like offering a prayer for another or providing comfort through words of wisdom and support. Little touches can also play a vital role in building that authentic connection. For example, a gesture as simple as caring for another without expecting return can establish deep affection. It can be as simple as doing a favor, like bringing a coffee, listening to concerns, or even asking a question about the other person's well-being. These gestures, when done with good intentions, show real concern for the well-being of others and promote an authentic and deep connection. The permitted gestures, in their simplicity, remind us that true love does not reside in excessive demonstrations or behaviors that break the boundaries of what is permitted. On the contrary, it is in the little things, in the discreet gestures, in the gentleness of intentions, that the true essence of human connection is found. By cultivating these gestures, we strengthen bonds in a pure way, which not only respects our Islamic principles, but also brings us closer to our Creator. Let us never forget that authenticity in a relationship is more valuable than any physical gesture. Every loving gesture, no matter how small, that is guided by pure and respectful intention, becomes a blessing for both parties. It is this sincerity that creates a true connection, a bond that transcends simple physical attraction and stands the test of time. 4. Patience and temperance, the art of waiting with confidence. One of the most powerful values that Islam teaches us, especially in the context of human relationships, is patience. We live in an age where immediate gratification is valued, where everything seems within reach, and where everything is expected to happen quickly, without delay. But divine wisdom reminds us that true beauty often lies in waiting. And in the context of relationships, this patience is not simply an act of resignation. It is an act of faith and trust in Allah. In human relationships, especially those that have the potential to lead to deeper commitment, patience becomes a fundamental element. Islam does not call us to rush our feelings or our actions, but to nurture them with care, to let them develop in a pure environment without external pressures or immoderate desires. This patience is one of the most powerful ways to protect against impulsiveness, which can often lead to regret and actions contrary to our Islamic principles. Why is patience so important in this context? Because in Islam, the act of restraining oneself, of not giving in to temptation, is a form of honor. This shows deep respect, not only for the other person, but also for oneself and one's spiritual principles. This self-control allows one to keep one's heart pure and avoid regrets or hasty decisions that could jeopardize the relationship or even one's trajectory toward a blessed commitment, such as marriage. Patience, in this perspective, becomes a protective virtue. It preserves the integrity of the relationship, allowing it to develop slowly but surely on solid and healthy foundations. Rushing, on the contrary, often destroys the possibility of a true spiritual connection. In the meantime, by taking the time to know the other in their reality and not through a preconceived idea or an immediate desire, we give ourselves the chance to establish a more authentic relationship. In Islam, patience is not just an absence of action. She is active. It involves trust in Allah, His wisdom, and His timing. This means accepting that everything comes in its own time and that God's plans are always best for us, even if it can sometimes be difficult to understand in the moment. Sometimes waiting is the way Allah purifies our hearts, helps us better understand what we truly want, and prepares us for a brighter future. In relationships, this patience also translates into temperance. This means not giving in to the urge to create a physical connection before the time is right, but also understanding that each stage of the relationship must be experienced fully and wisely. It's about having a long-term vision, accepting that true affection, that which will last, is not forged through speed, but through constancy, mutual respect, and the continuous growth of the relationship in purity. Waiting with confidence does not mean being passive. Rather, it involves cultivating other aspects of the relationship, continuing to know each other on a deeper level, and strengthening ourselves spiritually. It is also a time to reflect on our own intentions and prepare for the future. This waiting is an act of faith, a way of saying, I trust Allah to guide my steps, to give me what is good for me when it is best for my faith and my life. When we choose to wait, we are not choosing stillness, but rather a path of active patience and trust. This process nourishes our soul, strengthens our relationship with Allah, and prepares our heart to receive the blessing of a true and lasting relationship, built on solid foundations. Patience becomes, in this sense, not only an act of submission, but also an act of great strength, a force that protects our hearts and relationships from distractions and temptations, allowing us to navigate toward pure and blessed love. So, the next time you feel that impatience, remember that waiting in Islam is not a waste of time, but an opportunity to grow spiritually and strengthen the relationship in an authentic way. 5. Spiritual complicity. Building a durable and sacred bond. When we talk about the true connection between two people, it is essential to understand that spiritual love is the very essence of a relationship that stands the test of time. In a world where superficial relationships multiply, it becomes essential to look for something deeper, something that transcends simple human emotions and is anchored in spiritual complicity. Such complicity is the key to a lasting relationship, based on solid principles, and it makes it possible to create a bond not only between two people, but also between two souls, united by the same faith. Islam constantly reminds us that authentic love is not based solely on physical desires and attractions, but on a shared understanding of spiritual values, ethics, and common goals. This spiritual complicity is what allows a relationship to be maintained in the long term, even in the face of difficulties. When two people are aligned in their faith, their hearts and their minds, they find fertile ground for building a relationship that goes beyond the ups and downs of everyday life. Spiritual complicity begins with a mutual understanding of life's priorities. A person who shares the same religious convictions and the same spiritual goals is someone with whom we can build a solid future, with complete confidence. This common ground is what will guide the relationship even when trials come. A relationship without this spiritual complicity is likely to collapse under the pressure of worldly expectations and external temptations. But when two individuals unite in the same spiritual quest, they become a force, ready to overcome challenges together and move forward on a path of faith and inner peace. One of the beauties of spiritual complicity is that it is anchored in permanent values. Human emotions can be volatile, changing, influenced by external factors, but faith remains a constant. A relationship founded on sound spiritual principles is not limited to a fleeting period of love, but becomes a continuous source of comfort, support, and growth for both individuals. This creates a connection that does not seek to exploit the other, but to support them in their spiritual journey, to encourage them to become the best version of themselves for the sake of the relationship, and, above all, for the sake of Allah. This means that spiritual complicity also implies common growth. In such a relationship, it is not just about seeking to satisfy personal desires, but about helping each other in the pursuit of spiritual well-being. One of the strongest aspects of this complicity is common prayer, moments of shared reflection on faith, and deep discussions that allow us to grow together. Spiritual complicity helps nourish the bond with Allah, because each gesture, each word exchanged, is imbued with this common desire to rise spiritually. In addition, a relationship built on spiritual complicity promotes deep mutual respect. It is not just about respecting each other as individuals, but also as human beings who strive to act according to the principles of faith. Each helps the other to get closer to God, to strengthen their religious practice, and to preserve their values. This mutual spiritual respect creates an unshakable trust and inner peace that transcends any difficulties one may encounter. Respect is not just an external act, but a shared conviction that forges a lasting bond. Finally, spiritual complicity is that which prepares individuals for the next step, whether it is marriage or any other form of deep commitment. It allows the relationship to develop with a solid foundation, a basis which does not depend on passing trials or superficial passions, but on a common quest for spiritual elevation and rapprochement with Allah. Thus, a relationship based on spiritual complicity becomes a shared journey, a journey of life in which two souls help each other, support, and strengthen each other. This relationship is not simply a means of personal fulfillment, but an act of worship, a path to salvation. It becomes the most beautiful blessing because it is built on sincerity, purity, and a shared faith, essential elements for getting through this life and the afterlife together. Ultimately, true connection lies not in the intensity of physical gestures, but in the depth of respect and purity of our intentions. Islam shows us that love can be experienced in an authentic and blessed way, without sacrificing our faith or our values. If you want to grow your relationships in a healthy, respectful, and spiritually enriching way, start applying these principles today. So whether you're in a current relationship or considering the future, consider how you can evolve your connections following the path of Islam. Subscribe, share this video, and leave your thoughts and questions in the comments. Together, let's build relationships based on respect, love, and faith.